Okay, so completely, obviously we unmasked it, everything else like that. We're really happy, so we've pushed on with the decaling because quite frankly it's one of those long old jobs. You know, you could do it over a couple of nights, something else like that. I've just pushed through it really and spent the entire afternoon on this one, working our way through. So hopefully you can see we've got these nice markings down here on the front, nothing really to talk about underneath. We've got these down the back and everything else. Okay, on top, the silvering you can see, I will show you how to get rid of that momentarily, okay? We'll get rid of that, so don't take any notice. But that is a reflection of a thick decal rather than an actual silvering, because as you can see on there, there is no silver to it. It is literally just reflecting the shine, okay? And a lot of people get confused between the two, between silvering and, you know, that type of effect. That is just the glossiness of the actual decal. Now in previous ones we've shown you about actually removing the carrier film. To be honest, there isn't that much carrier film on these at all. It's just that they are very thick, very glossy decals on this. So quite frankly, our options were quite limited for getting them off. So anyway, we've got these last few to go on here, so I thought I'd show you these. So we're using some micro sol. I've already got set that's been in the water, that's the softener one. And I know this might terrify a lot of people, but honestly it's not so bad. All we're going to do is brush it on here, okay? Then we take the decal itself. I'm just going to use my finger because I find it's easier to line up, okay? And we position it in. I'll tell you what, that's not a bad job, lining it up, put it in. Now when you're using a setter as the actual point for putting it down, just be aware that with thinner decals it can grip, okay, and then you won't be able to move it around like we've done just here. Okay, when you're using thick decals like these are really thick, you can actually do it because you can get away with it. Now the AK is going to fit in just down here, so again I've got it stuck to my finger and then we'll stick it to it, okay, down like this, and we're just going to walk it into our position, and it actually just goes above the area in just like that, okay. Then the last one is this, the big bat on the top. So again, he's just going to come in, and we'll just roughly place him. Now the way I've been lining him up is his wings will go with all the batty bits up on the top panel, and his foot goes down to the bottom one. Once they're on, we're going to roll them because that's going to push all the air out and stop your silvering. And you've got a good bite going on there already because of we're using a setter down in there. Once they're on, I'm going to come back with a setter again. We're just going to give it a brush over right the way, flood it over, don't be too frightened of it, okay, to make sure it all sticks down. Now to be honest, apart from them being very thick, put the lid on because you wouldn't believe the amount of times I've spilled this stuff, okay. Although they're very thick, they go down very well, okay, and as I said, carrier film is to a minimum. So you might be able to see down here, if we just move this over, you can actually see we've got these markings here, no real sign of silvering, but you have got that sort of reflective hue to them, okay. I'm not too worried about it, but what I want to do is I want to blend it all in completely before we step on with the weathering and obviously getting it together. And the point of view is we'll be able to handle it a lot more if it's all protected and sealed down. So apart from the tail, which I'll avoid, what I'm going to use is we're going back to this stuff. Now this is the polyurethane matte varnish. This stuff is very thick, okay, to the point of just be careful about getting the snow effect, as we call it, or frosting, i.e. if you put it on too close, okay, and too much, it will literally just frost up. So we're going to be using, actually that's just our metallizers through it, so we'll use this guy here. So in here we just got the standard 0.2 needle. We are going to put this in neat, okay, so as you can see it's very thick, okay, to the point it's quite horrible really. Now maximum air pressure, what we do that wing with you, and then the rest of it I can get on with separately. But you can see here we've got this silvering on all these decals and everything else. So if I just check my flow, all we're going to do is a nice dusty coat right over them. There we go, you see, saturated. Now if I try and do, whilst looking at this, okay, And there we go. If I dry it down now we have no more silvering at all. Okay, and don't forget I've got really strong studio lights here, and that takes care. If you want to get it more to be the sort of dusty look, just cutting to air, just drying this all down. Couple of little dry spots left. And this will give you a completely dead, there we go, that is as dead. We have no shine no matter where I angle it, okay? And that is the beauty about this stuff. So as you can see, it's one of those things, I'm trying to do it and show you at the same time, and that's never a good combo. So let's try it again, okay? So you can just see it like this, okay? So I'm just going to come in, quite a thick coat, smooth it all out, even it all out, okay? Quite shiny. And if I just cut to air, hopefully you'll see this all die down. And you can see all I've got is air going on down here. You can see it going flatter and flatter and flatter. And that's what we're talking about. That's not silvering, that's just a shiny decal who now is a flat decal. Okay, so when you compare it along with the front things, perhaps we do it this way, it might be slightly easier. Okay. Oh. Alright, so these guys all down the front, you see, very shiny. We're just going to go over these just to seal them all in, and we're going to do these back ones whilst we're at it as well. And these underside ones. Okay. So you need to put this stuff down as thick as you can without it going frosty white, okay? So as you can see, lots of shininess there, and as we dry down, hopefully you can see it'll start to go. All I've got is air here. And that gives us a very nice, flat, almost painted on effect. Now the beautiful thing about doing this way is obviously what it does, it gives you a very nice stable base for your next flat coats and everything else to go on, any weathering you want to do or anything else, okay? And it will hopefully mute everything out. I'll just do down the top here so we get everything going. I can do these sides. But you do have to make sure that your paintwork is all fine, okay? And to make sure that all your decals, your silvering is all taken care of. Those I'll wait until afterwards, okay? And everything else. Otherwise, if you try and do this before, what's going to happen, quite frankly, you're going to end up with a mess, because this then will then lift, it will peel, and everything else that goes with it. So if we just dry down this back, hopefully you can see this in real time, how shiny and everything it will go, just being muted right the way over. Yeah, so this is just there. Okay, I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to put this one down on this side as well, just to speed everything up. But this is locking in the silver work and everything all in one. Okay. There we go. So okay, that's getting a bit smoky in here now, but hopefully you can see our nice flat finish. The decals are all in there, taken in. So when these guys all come in, and these got to be fitted on yet, we'll really have a good looking tornado, which will look something like what we're after, okay, just like that. So what I'm going to do now, let that flat coat completely dry off and everything else so I can touch it and grab it. I've got to do the same because quite frankly we've done the decals on all these little guys as well. They've all got them, the leading edges, all those bits and pieces have all got them. So what we need it to do, totally get them flattened down, dry it all off completely, okay, and then we can really start to bring it together, start adding all the bits. We've got to fix the trailing edge flaps, the front leading edge slats, okay, we've got to do these tails, get them all locked in properly, because quite frankly they're all over the place at the moment. We've got to do a couple of other things as well, which quite frankly I've forgotten about until I've checked my references. But RAF GRs have a fin up here, a tail fin in front of the rudder, top of the rudder, which are these guys you get in the kit, but unfortunately I neglected to open up the holes. So we're going to be looking at how to put the holes in to make sure you've got a perfect fit for those and everything else in there. So we've still got quite a bit to go. Okay, so decals all on, and I think you agree, looking pretty nice. You can see on the close-up, minimal amount of silvering. To be honest, usual thing, if you have got some, just use your standard techniques. Perhaps a scratch, as I've done a couple of them with a blade. You come along with something like an X20 A thinners and acrylic thinners over the top just to smooth them down. One little technique I can show you, if I've got it, I haven't actually got any on here, but what you can actually do, if you take something like Tamiya's X20A thinners, sometimes you might get like a watermark or a tide mark from where you put your setting solutions on, things like that. Obviously they're a bit unsightly and quite hard to get rid of. If you give them a brush over with some X20, okay, this is the blue top one, enamel thinners, okay, and then literally either let it, you know, come off, or just give it a quick rub over with a cotton bud with it on. You can get rid of that sort of tide mark all the way around. And I thought I had some on here, but it looks like I don't now, so scrap that idea. I actually thought I did have a little bit going on there. I've got a tiny bit of silvering. You might be able to see this decal just down here has got a tiny bit of silvering, so I can actually show you a little bit of technique. So what you want to do is wet it first. So we're just going to come on and we're just putting some X20 around it. Okay, once it's on like that, all we're going to do is literally going to come in with a blade, okay, and we're just going to lightly scribe it left and right just to make sure it's got. I'm just going to do this one up here, and then you give it another coat over the top, just being careful you don't scrape out, and then hopefully you can see we've lost all of that silvering that was in there. And that's what you're looking for. You're just looking for small amounts of silvering, so I'm just checking over all the others to make sure we haven't got any. Alright. And then what you do is, once that's dry, if you've got a little tide mark caused by this, you can see where it's wet on there, sometimes it gives a tide. If you come along with some enamel thinners and literally just give it a quick rub, you can get rid of it. It dries very quick, but the great thing about enamel thinners is it smooths it all out as well, so you don't actually get any sort of tide marks or rough edges or anything else like that. Okay, so we're going to let that one dry down. Now, I've also put together the gear, okay, so it's just had a light dry brush. You might be able to see we've used a little bit of metallizer paint for that suspension travel, okay, and we've done the nose wheel. We've gone around and done the fuel tanks, and we've put the banding on. Again, they went on really, really well. I had quite a lot of tide marks on these, and that's what reminded me. I'd gone round and I've actually gone over it with that enamel trick, which gives it that flat, muted look right the way over it. Then it's had a coat of flat. To be honest, everything's had a coat of flat right over it. That really just brings it down, even playing field for when we come on with doing the weathering, okay, as we make our way through. So what we're going to use is, have I got it around? Where are we? Dirt. We're going to use the dark dirt wash, pretty standard. We've done it 100 times before. Quick recap. Don't forget, this isn't just a panel line wash and all the rest of it. It's actually part of the weathering down into the model, okay? So what you want is a clean brush, so we just check it is clean. It's quite stiff, this brush, to be honest. It's not my best brush in the world, it's quite horrible in fact. Okay, but we're just going to dry it off. Normally I would say you decant a little bit out into a separate pot and use it that way, but because I use quite a lot of it, I'm just going to take it clean from the bottle. Okay, so we're just going to take it out, and all we're going to do is just going to brush it right the way over the entire model, covering absolutely everything. Okay, the idea behind covering everything is that when you come to rub it off, it's all completely even anyway, and you don't get left with any sort of tide marks or anything else like that. Okay, now the clever ones among you will notice it's a little bit thicker. This is our newer version of this one, which is obviously available now, and everything else. Okay, so we're going to go over the black, and we're going to go completely over everywhere with it. Literally, as you can imagine. Make sure you do canopy frame bars, everything else like that, because you don't want a situation where you've got clean bits, because you need it all to go in and everything together. If you find this is too thick and it's too dark for you for what you need, don't forget you can lighten it, or you can mix it with any other colour in the range to make anything you like. Now we have got to come back and do some interesting weathering with this one, because we've got to put smoke and soot stains on everything else like that, of which we're going to use the wash again, okay, with a couple of techniques which we'll show a little bit later on. Okay, as you can see, it goes on very, very well, nice and even, absolutely everywhere. So apart from that front edge I don't want to do, what we're going to do is just do the top half of the mirror, let it dry for 5, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do the other side. Okay, just down this side. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do is try and grab it inside the wheel wells. That's all a good spot. Okay, and on the underside. Okay, front. So avoiding that area. As I say, we've got to do that weight issue, which I will do shortly. I'm just avoiding that spot where it's had that little bit of thinners on there, because obviously it's not protected and it might get underneath. Alright, so these are going to come along and around. Okay, and we can just let that dry off as we normally would. It's drying already, actually, you can see it drying off on the top there very, very quickly. It's only going to take, I should think, about 10 minutes to totally dry. If we just pop him down here, we can let that dry off. Don't forget, you've got to do absolutely everything, so it's all the same type of all over it. So we've got down here the tail planes. Okay, so we can do those as well. And just make sure you work it all in. To be honest, as you see, it's quite bubbly and frothy, this one. This is because it had a damn good shake before I started the cameras, because I haven't actually used it for a while, actually a couple of months. I've used the black but not actually the dark dirt. As you can see, the dark dirt has that sort of browny, dirty engine oil, which is great for any type of weathering on aircraft or anything else like that. I think that's all we need to do for the moment. Things like fuel tanks and that, they're a bit weird on the way they're weathered, and we're going to do that slightly different afterwards. So we just take that out. Remember, just clean out your brushes and everything in just normal water. Okay, and it'll come straight off. Just get it off of me a bit. Okay, as those are drying, there's a couple of other bits we can be getting on with. First of all is the engine exhaust on the back, of which I've done one already. To be honest, this one is just the, have I moved it? I thought it was here. What have I done with it? It is here. This is the dark iron. Okay, it's the colour. It's unbuffed at the moment, and by unbuffed I mean it's just literally been put on. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to poke my finger in the back. I like to use my finger, and then you might be able to see if I do half of it and rub with your finger. It was hand painted on as well. It wasn't airbrushed on this. It was literally just put on by hand. You can see we should be able to make quite a nice burnt stroke metal looking area, just like that. So hopefully you can see it on there. It's got that sort of metally look, but the thing I like about this is obviously we can do this. If I just rub it in your fingers and you can get it all going, just around like that, just down the inside. Just don't scrape it with your nail, otherwise you'll make a right mess. Okay, I've got a slight mark. Obviously this one here is where the clamp was holding it, but apart from that, that gives us our exhaust. As you can see, it's metally, it catches it in the light, and it'll be the same on the outside, but they look very dark, so I'm hoping that will work quite well. And on the aircraft itself, so careful how we handle this, you can see we've got it here on the exhaust down here, and depending on how the light catches it, it looks quite metally or it looks very, very flat. Okay, so as I said, it's just one of those things. So we've done that one as well, and we've gone round and we've taken care of round about the pylons, things like that. And what we've got to do is the geared doors. The other thing we haven't spoken about is that the RAF version on the tail has a little mini fin system, which you do get in the kit, which are these parts here. Now I didn't put the slit in because obviously it wasn't in the book, so what I've done is I thinned down the little tab for each of them, and as I'll show you when we take the wash off, because this will go in afterwards, I've just drilled a hole through where they are, and it's really easy to work out because it's the top of the rudder to actually where the radar warning receiver meets the top of the fin. So if you do an angle there, that's the middle of it. That's where I've put the hole through for attaching it and everything else, but we'll show you a little bit more like that once that dried off and we got the wash off. Okay, so it's been on and drying for around about half an hour, and all we're doing is taking it off, and hopefully you can see the difference.
remember, you're not trying to take it all off, you're trying to leave a certain amount behind, so don't go in there with a massively sort of wet cloth. If you do it with the dry, what you should find, obviously we're over a flat coat here, so when you give this a rub, nothing really happens. You get a little bit off, but nothing's going to happen too much, okay? So you're coming in, no good. Wet it a little bit, back of the hand just to move it around, give it a wipe, okay? Then things start to move. So as you see, like down here, not really taking tons off, all right? Get right in there, plenty of moisture, circular motions, and you can take it off. And this is over, as I say, a completely dead flat finish, and it goes everywhere as you want. But we've still left a certain amount of texture in there. Remember to always go with the direction of the airflow, so we're going up and down movements, okay, forward and back all the time. So we're just going over the top of these canopy. We'll probably flick that off and do it separate. And generally just working your way around the entire model and just making sure you get all the big stuff off, because otherwise if you don't, what's going to happen is it's going to get caught in the next weathering processes and the textures and everything else that happens afterwards, okay? So wetting an area, get it all off, okay? Switch to a clean bit. Okay, then we're just going to go with the direction of the airflow, so we get any streaking that we want, we can leave in there. But obviously with this one, because it's a swing wing aircraft, you're not going to necessarily get it where you think you are. So we're not having it like this would back be, so you'd probably be more like this for different streaking and weathering effects. Okay, so we're just going to go around these, and up. Okay, around this front area, and just generally taking your time, working around. And if you take too much off, don't forget you can just grab a bit from somewhere else onto the cloth and then re-rub it in to go in there. Okay, and as you can see, we've already taken it off half the underside, just like this, giving us pretty good finish all the way down. As I say, it's one of these things, you can leave as much on as you like, okay, or you can take it off just to have a more panel lined, washed effect. It's personal choice. Okay, so we're going to be doing a little bit of both, so we're leaving a little bit of grime on and then using it to our advantage for streaking and things like that. So on this wing, you can see we've got quite a lot left on there. Okay, so then we're just going to come in. You can make any weathering streaking you like. I'm just going to run back over it. Okay, so if you want it to be quite streaky, you could have something like that, but there again, if you don't worry about it. Wet it. Okay, all over, and you can take it all off. Okay, and just like so. Alright, I think you just got to stick down here. Okay, so that's about it. Pretty happy. Probably need another quick wipe over before we go, but certainly, hopefully you can see, definitely a lot more grimy, weathered in. We've got the panel lines coming in now, and hopefully it changes the entire tone of the aircraft. And again, a lot of people, especially recently, have been talking to me about filtering. Don't forget, that's what that's done. You've put on a coat right the way over the entire model, so actually you've changed the tone of it. So in some ways, you could say what we've just done has been a filter, because it's actually put on a change of how it is and everything else like that. Okay, so technically that is what filtering is. Okay, next up I'm going to take care of something that's bugged me all the way through this build, and that is that damn nose weight. Obviously there's lots of different ways you can do this. You could drill a hole in through the nose and then fill it and everything afterwards, okay, which is probably a good little solution, because to try and do the underside of the nose wouldn't be a problem, but we've got the option in here of coming in through the wheel well. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just working out what size bits we've got. This is a slightly bigger drill bit. I'm going to drill a hole in through the front of the wheel well. Okay, So we just done a little small hole in there for the moment, and then what we'll do is we're just going to put in a slightly larger drill bit into here. Hopefully this one will accept it. I might have to just quickly do a speedy little change on this. No, we should do it. Hasn't been opened up for a long time, this one. That's the trouble. I can get it into here. So this one's got super glue and all sorts in it. Let's jam this one up. I don't think we're going to get it in that one. See what we got in here. Don't know if that one's going to work either. We're in a bit of a quandary with this, trying to find a system that will allow this one in. Alright, we'll do a slightly bigger hole than I anticipated, but it's all good. So we're just going to pop a little hole in the front of the nose here. Just tighten that up a little bit, loosen it off. Now the idea with this is you could just fill it with a little bit of filler or with a bit of plastic card or whatever you need. Okay, so that has put our hole down in there. Then we have our rattle, which if we just grab a cocktail stick, theoretically we should be able to cure that with a cocktail stick in there. Alright, so that actually takes care of that really nicely. So what you've got is an option. You can either just feed in PVA glue into that hole, or you can actually put the cocktail stick in there, cut it to length to jam it all in. What we're going to do is, I think we're just going to try a drop of crystal clear, which is obviously my choice of PVA glue. Normally I wouldn't use it for something like this, but I think it will do the trick. Okay, so we're just going to pop in a generous blob of PVA, and then we're just going to remove. Hopefully you can see it's all flowing down in there. And we'll just do that again. Grab a bit more. So making a bit of a mess, but that's the great thing we use in PVA glue. If we'd use something else and we'd got white glue on it like this, we would have a real problem, okay? If you're using super glue or something, that's why we use white glue, because we can clear it up. Okay, one more blob. Push bit that in. Tell you what, I'm going to do one more because I want to make sure this never moves again and comes back to haunt me. Now the idea with having it poked downwards is obviously it's just going to flow in there and flow down to the bottom and then stick. Okay, so we just grab a clean up job just down here. Made a bit of a mess. Remember, always wet your cloth with PVA glue, and it'll just wipe it all away. Okay, so a little spatula tool somewhere. So many tools on the go. There we go. So what we're going to do, it's just got our little tool. I'm just going to pop this in all the way over. And we're just pushing it in. Okay. And actually you can see we've done quite a good job down in there. Again, we're just going to wet a cotton pad just for a quick clean up. Now what we're hoping for is obviously it's going to go in there, it's all going to stick, so I'm hoping it would have flowed in, gone down in there and go through, but you can see it's quite a neat hole there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just rattle this around a little bit to hopefully it will coat it and then it will stick. Well, that's my theory. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, this will call it quits for me tonight working on this one. I'm going to leave it stood up like this in the vise, to be honest, holding it nice and upright, and then hopefully it'll dry. So when we get up in the morning, we're going to give it a shake and hopefully you won't hear anything.